Good evening. Welcome to the public hearing and Derry Cooperative School District meeting for January 14th, 2025. Before we begin, let's rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we get into our public hearings, we got an approval of minutes. I will take a motion to approve the public minutes from December 10th.
So moved.
First by Jason.
Second.
Second by Jonathan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Wait. Yep. I'll take a motion to approve the public minutes from December 17th.
So moved.
First by Jason.
Second.
Second by Jonathan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. On the 10th, I think it's 6-0, right? Jenny has to abstain?
That's right.
Okay. Did you get that? Thank you. All right, before we open up the public hearing, is quick update. So we will go through the hearing, and once it's time for individuals to come up and speak, we will answer questions during that time as well. We'll keep delegations individuals as a time where comment is only with no questions and answer, but during the public hearings, we will answer questions as they come up to us. So with that, I would take a motion to open the public hearing on the school facility capital maintenance improvement bond.
So moved.
Second.
First by Michael, second by Jason, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes 7-0. All right. All right, so before we get into the presentation, I'll read the warrant article quickly. It's warrant article number 2, capital improvements. Expected tax impact year 1 at 11 cents. Shall the Derry Cooperative School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $24,601,951 for the purpose of financing school facility capital maintenance improvements, including but not limited to roofs, building facades, HVAC, and doors, windows. $24,601,951 to be raised through the issuance of a bond or note under and in compliance with the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33-1, as amended to authorize the school board to apply for, obtain, accept, and expend federal, state, or other, if any, which may be available for the said purpose, and to comply with all laws applicable to said project. To authorize the school board to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver said bond and notes, and determine the rate of interest thereon in the maturity and other terms thereof. To further raise and appropriate the additional sum of $615,049 for the first year's payment on the bond, and to authorize the school board to take any other action or to pass any other vote relative thereto. 3/5 ballot vote required.
Okay, on this page, you're going to see all of the maintenance items that are in the proposal for the bond. And each school is going to be having some work done. Every school is going to have doors and windows. I think the goal of the board was to have really the enclosure buttoned up, make sure everything is energy efficient, replace the doors and windows, making the building secure. You can see that there are some larger projects, for example, the building facade at West Running Brook, where the brick needs to be replaced. We've had multiple meetings on that project. And also you can see South Range, in addition to having a roof replacement similar to the other schools. As you may remember, West Running Brook and Barca had their roofs replaced this summer, and the remaining schools are on a schedule in this bond warrant article in order to replace those roofs. But at South Range is also an issue with the brick facade on the exterior of the building that would need to be replaced, window replacement on the 1966 section, and the HVAC and structural upgrades on the roof. As you may remember, we had ESSER funds that we were able to replace the HVAC in the other schools, and those projects have been completed, but we did not have enough funds to do South Range. So South Range's HVAC needs to be replaced, and so that's why you're going to see a significant amount of more money on the South Range area of the bond. The structure needs to be secured on the roof in order to replace the HVAC. So one can't be done without the other. They have to structurally repair the roof replace the roof and put the HVAC in. And then, of course, we have soft costs, which those are things, for example, the designs for the exterior of the building and the designs for the HVAC. Those would be soft costs. We also have to have construction manager for any project that's more than $1 million. And then there's 10% contingency funds, which all of these are industry standards. And again, if any of the numbers come in lower than that, we would be able to do similar projects that have been brought to the board, for example, that were on the warrant article last year that did not get included on here. So the total requested would be $24,601,951. And this next slide, we're just talking about, why are we going to be doing this? Again, we would have new roofs on all of our buildings with the window and door replacements. The HVAC system is really the last project for HVAC at South Range. And as I mentioned, the exterior of the buildings. And why would we do a bond? As you may know, the districts just in the last few years were able to retain funds, but those funds don't carry over every year. So you don't have retained funds that are rolling. So it wouldn't be feasible that a district would have $24 million saved or any one of these projects saved. So by doing a bond, it spreads the cost over a number of years, and we're able to take the bond in sections. So we would have 3 years to complete the projects. And any of the, obviously when we receive the funds, we would put them in interest-bearing accounts, and we would be able to spend those interest-bearing, the dollar amounts that we receive on interest for other projects. This next slide is really just showing you the bond schedule. So year one, it would be 11 cents would be the tax impact, and that year one is always interest only. And when you get to year two, it's going to be interest and principal, and that would be your highest year at 44 cents, and then it decreases until your 15th year would be 30 cents. We looked at a 15 or a 20 year, we would just be saving a significant amount of interest by going with a 15 year. And the last interest rates that the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank went out with was a 3.46%. We would be going out for our bond in July, and the interest rates likely would change, but we expect they would still stay low. Municipal bonds are always a lot lower on their interest rates in comparison to a home loan, for example.
All right, so the school board does recommend this capital improvement. We'll obviously be voting on that in a little bit, but as everyone remembers, last year we came up to the voters with a $36 million bond, if you all remember, that was very encompassing, went beyond just the facility, facades, roofs, and electric and all that. We had stuff that inside the building needed to be done, electrical, plumbing, other mechanical systems. And one of the big things, obviously, it got a majority vote, but it didn't meet the 3/5 vote at the election. So one of the big things as we were discussing this process last several months is, we heard what people said regarding taxes. They're very high. People are struggling with their tax rate, especially the older citizens in this town. So as a board, I think we came to the realization that we need to bring this number down, and we cut it by a third to 24 million. And I think most people on the board acknowledged during that discussion that, yes, we would like to get the 38 or $36 million, but if it's not going to happen, 24 million gets us our facilities to a place where they're structurally okay and sound as we move to the future, as outlined in the different projects that will be happening if this is to pass. Overall, our facilities represent an investment in our community, and the good thing is all schools will be getting what they need to move forward in the future long term. And we'll have to figure out the next steps as we complete these projects. How do we do the remaining projects in our schools as we move forward will be the next step in the process. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, we've made no bones about it. We have West Running Brook. It has a banding issue that needs to be done. It's critical needs. We've found temporary solutions that we do not want to do, if possible, and that's a big chunk of this. It's $3 million of this bond, I believe, a little over $3 million. And at the end of the day, the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost. It's just facts. I think on one of our estimates, most of the estimates, we're up 13% this year from last year, based on 1 year of waiting. But at the end of the day, we'll get out there and speak to the town and community like we have in the past, and reach people that we normally wouldn't reach in the past, and really explain the needs and why this is necessary for us to get past. I don't know if anyone else on the board has anything else to say, but if not, we can move on to the next slide. Guess that's me again, right? The dates, or yeah, I'll do the dates. So obviously, we have the deliver session on February 1st, West Rhinebrook Gym, 10 a.m. For further discussion with the full town, whoever decides to show up, and a discussion with the town. And obviously, voting day is Tuesday, March 11th at Pinkerton Academy. I know Tina will be giving more details on that in the upcoming agenda items. So at this time, we do the motion here. Actually, no, you know what? I'll open up the comment section. So anyone will give you the 3 minutes, and as I mentioned, we will answer your questions. And while we're answering your questions, the clock will stop, so you'll still get your 3 minutes based on what you want to talk about. Cliff is going to handle that for us. So, as always, name and address for the record, and you're free to come up.
Thank you, Erica Leon, 84 Shanita Road. My question is about the very end of the language on the warrant article. The word saying, and to authorize the school board to take any other action or to pass any other vote relative thereto, doesn't ring a bell for me seeing that on warrant articles before. I'd like to know what would require that to be in the warrant article and what you would expect to use that for, because I believe the voters would be far more willing to vote for this if it has better guardrails on what you can use this money for.
Jane, do you have that bond council? You worked at bond council on that. Can you kind of give an update?
Hi, Erica. Yes, so we, all of our warrant articles are drafted by bond counsel and also reviewed by our general counsel, and they're also reviewed by the Department of Revenue, because we have to submit them all for review. So this is standard language. The only thing that's really different in here that we're doing that may address your concern, where we say the purpose of financing school facility capital maintenance improvements, including but not limited to, we've listed the majority of those projects. But again, if some of the projects came in lower, we would be able to use these funds for other maintenance projects. You would not be able to use any of this money to buy furniture and equipment. It could only be for maintenance projects. And that would go to the board. The board would work on the list that we've had of maintenance projects. All of it would go through a board and public meetings to spend any of the money.
And so would that be authorizing the board to do those actions in order to do that, such as buy new furniture and equipment for school, if you ended up having the money available?
No. If we had a warrant article for a new school, you would use those funds. If it was a new school, you would have included all of your furnishings for a school. But where this is just maintenance projects, you can only do things that are maintenance facility related projects, but not furniture or furnishings. So building envelope, electrical, doors, windows, those are the only type of things that you could do out of this warrant article.
Okay, I expect that equipment probably is really expensive too, even to furnish out the schools.
Yes.
Okay, and I know that this is standard language, but is this common language? Because to me, this really does seem to make it a lot broader. And is there, because it says including but not limited to, I know that there's concerns in the community that the commitment to South Range School may or may not be followed up on, and the improvements may or may not be done there. And I know a lot of people would be much more comfortable knowing that there is a legal commitment in order to do these projects. And so my question is whether this ending language allows the next school board to sort of squiggle around and do something other than what the voters think they're voting for.
So the reason why you want to put that language in is really to give yourself a little bit of flexibility, because of part of that bond, we're including contingency, soft costs, management costs. So if say they came in lower than we're estimating, if you just limited it to naming the several projects that are in that list, then you would not be able to spend those remaining funds on anything. So that's why this is standard language for a warrant article for a bond, again, approved by 2 councils and Department of Revenue, and they purposefully have you put that in so that you are still able to use those funds. But again, they're only, and it says, for the purpose of financing school facility for capital maintenance improvements. So it's the only thing you can use it for. And the items that we listed, we already have designs on them, so we anticipate moving forward with them.
Okay, and then would it be correct that the other alternative to saying that you have this additional flexibility if you don't spend all the funds would be a requirement that any unspent funds immediately pay down the bond so that you're paying less interest and that you get to closing on that, paying off that bond sooner?
I'm not sure. I mean, this is just standard language that we've always used, so neither bond counsel or general counsel have suggested that.
Okay, I saw that when I was just skimming through, and I saw that right in RSA 33-1, which is that. Thank you. The question will be whether or not the voters think that this is tight enough controls or not. I wish you guys luck on this one. I really would appreciate it if you would consider to have the language where that money that you don't spend on the specific projects goes back to pay back the principal so that we don't pay as much interest. I think the voters would be a lot more willing to do the bond for $25 million if they knew there were guardrails. But you're the ones who have been elected by the people of Derry, so you're the ones who get to choose the language. Thank you.
I would suggest school board, as David mentioned, last year we were looking for 38 million. So the thought of whether, first of all, by the time some of these things get put into play, David mentioned 13% in 1 year. Some of these things aren't going to be started for a couple of years, so costs are going to raise. Plus, school board wanting to have 38 million, trust me, they want to put this into, there's plenty of other things to do that are not listed, that are still capital improvements that the school board will want to use the money for.
Thank you. And you bring up a really good point that you won't be able to spend it all in year one. Did anybody recommend breaking it up so that you could have it in tranches where you would go for the first one and work through it and then come back to the voters and say, you did a great job with that $15 million. We love what you did. How about we give you 20 next year? Did anybody suggest that, and did you consider it?
Yeah, an individual resident did bring that up at a previous board meeting, and we had a facilities meeting the very next day, and I asked the committee, do we want to consider that? And it didn't get any traction in the committee.
Was there a vote, or was it just a general conversation?
Well, it's only 3 of us in the committee. We didn't raise our hand. We just had a conversation, and the decision was not to move forward with that. And we raised the tranche system last year, and it didn't seem to get any traction either. Well, I shouldn't say that. We got 52% of the vote, I guess. We got a majority. And so we tried that tranche system last year as well.
Much bigger tranches, but yes, you did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the other thing, we mentioned this last year, obviously this, of course, is the money will sit into investments that will earn some sort of return through our trustees of the trust fund. And I'm not sure how that money would be spent. I assume we could talk about applying it to the principal as well. I just don't know how that process works. But that's something we talked about last year, that the money will earn a rate of return. So.
And that spread's not as bad on municipal bonds since that rate is lower, since people's investments on municipal bonds aren't taxed.
Right.
But a lot of it's just making sure that people know and follow through on what you guys are doing and believe in your plan. So
Yeah.
hopefully there's enough people that pass this for you. Thank you.
Agreed. And what, I think Jane alluded to this, if she didn't say it, is we had 2 different people saying, typically you don't lock yourself in to certain things. You have to, but those the Department of Revenue, making that recommendation, as well as our bond counsel. So that's not something we came up with. I mean, it makes sense practically, right? But that's kind of where that came from. I know people want to see a list by school and dollar amount. It's just not a recommendation that we got from bond counsel or the Department of Revenue.
Understood. The question is whether the voters will approve it without that specific list.
Mm-hmm. Understood.
And we do have a list. Jane's first slide showed $24 million worth of repairs. Those are the repairs that this school board will be looking to put into play. And the hope is that this $24 million through those 3 years will still cover that. There may be some things on that list that, depending on when they get done, whether or not, if we get 13%, that money's going to disappear a lot faster. I don't think people are super worried about money being left over. I think it's more of the concern is not having enough. So you can look at that list on that third slide or whatever it was, and those are the things that are going to be top priority.
I think people's concerns are more around the not limited to, because you have that list, and that seems like a very well thought out list. Is that not limited to constrained only after the money is spent on those projects that you brought to us? Or could somebody look at it and say, this is great, but actually we need to go build X, Y, Z? And because the language is written including but not limited to, it doesn't say including all of these items. You could do one or two, the ones that are most critical to life safety. And with that language, it sounds like you could go and build, build an Olympic-sized swimming pool for the middle school, technically underneath that. I don't know if that falls into the same capital improvements. I'm giving it as an example of something you wouldn't do because it's nicer to go farther outside the lines. But let's say all the building on South Range wasn't done. Would you then be able to bring in another project if those projects were not completed? That's a big question. Sorry, and I stayed up past that light because you guys kept on talking to me as I was trying to leave. So, thank you.
All right, last chance. All right, I will accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
First by Michael,
Second.
second by Jenna. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 7-0. All right, now we'll take a motion to accept school board's recommendation for warrant Article 2.
So moved.
First by Jason,
Second.
second by, who was that, Jen? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 7-0. Okay, we now open the public hearing for the proposed 2025-2026 budget.
So moved.
First by Michael,
Second.
second by Jason, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes 7-0. Okay, I'll open up to the public to come up and speak on, oh, excuse me, of course.
They're good readers, though. Okay, warrant article number 1 is electing school board members. As everybody probably is aware, there are 7 school board members on the Derry Cooperative School District School Board. Normally, one year there's 2 openings, a following year there may be 2 openings, and then one of the years there's 3 openings. This happens to be one of those years when there's 3 openings. As some people may know, we had 2 resignations of first-year members this year, and the school board voted on 2 members to replace them. So there are also this year 2 two-year terms to finish out the 3-year terms of those 2 people. So we had some discrepancy in this, and we had a check on it, but there's basically 2 pools. Either somebody runs for one of the 3-year positions, or somebody runs for one of the 2-year positions. So if there's 5 people running for the 3-year positions, and the 4th person in that pool gets more votes than everybody who runs for the 2 years, it doesn't matter. Once you're in for the 3-year position, that's what you're running for, and when you're in for the 2-year position, that's what you're running for. If you are interested in applying, there's 2 qualifications. You must be a resident of Derry and a registered voter. The school board annual stipend is $1,500. Applications can be downloaded from the school district website, sau10.org. They can be picked up at the SAU office, 18 South Main Street, 7 a.m. I think it says 8 a.m. here, but we are open at 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. The application process runs Wednesday, January 22nd through Friday, January 31st, which is the day before the deliberative session. An application should be brought to Tina, who's sitting right here in this meeting. She works here at the town hall. She is our school district clerk, Tina Guilford. She will be accepting all of the applications. So if you are interested in running, please, as of next Wednesday, pick up your application and fill it out and get it into Tina.
All right, so warrant article number 3 is proposed budget, estimated tax impact 2 cents. Shall the district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately? The amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $102,184,053. Should this article be defeated, the 2025-2026 default budget shall be $102,184,054, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous actions of the school district or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40, 13, 10, and 16 to take up the issues of revised operating budget only.
Okay, what to know about the school district budget this year? The school district budget is actually $1.06 less than the default budget, in spite of the fact that the district lost over $900,000 worth of state adequacy aid this year. The tax impact is 2 cents per $1,000 of assessed property value, and this budget increases expenses less than 1% when you look at pre-K through grade 8, and that includes out-of-district placements. And I will say that the school board, along with the members of the Fiscal Advisory Committee, worked very hard and wanted this budget to be as low as possible this year, and there was a lot of work to get this down basically just slightly under that default budget, and I commend the members of both the FAC and the school board for their work on this.
So this is just a chart. We were trying to just do a comparison to show you some prior warrant articles and the tax impact on those, or the proposed tax impacts. And we went back as far as 2023 to do similar warrant articles and similar budgets, and just show the comparison of where we were for several other years. We were at $1.04, $1.07, $1.13, and with the new teacher contract and the proposed budget for the 25-26 school year, we're at 28 cents. So we just wanted to show you that so that you could see where we were, came in on a budget that is significantly lower than the prior 3 years. This summary sheet just identifies from the current fiscal year to the proposed fiscal year what the expenses are for our pre-K through grade 8 and also our Derry grade 8 through grade 12. A lot of people don't realize that there are a lot of expenses for grade 9, 10, 11, and 12, and up to age 22 that are in our budget that would not be included in Pinkerton's. For example, we have students who are outplaced, and for special education, we're obligated to provide services for those students up to age 22 if necessary. So there are costs in there for so that you can see grade 9 through 12 and our pre-K through grade 8, which, like Austin said, is less than 1% of an increase. And then the Pinkerton Academy and Next Charter School, they had significant decrease in the enrollment based on numbers of students that we're sending up. And so you'll see a significant decrease in their, they did have a rate increase of over 5%, but because it was a reduction in the estimated number of students, there's a reduction in their proposal. And then our federal and food service, those are self-funded, so you can't spend more than the grants that you receive. And this just breaks down our budget so that you can see categories from supplies, benefits, our out-of-district tuition, transportation, and these just highlight the areas of the budget. So for example, for salaries, that includes the teacher salaries that they're currently making. There would be no increase for them because there's a warrant article proposing an increase. So any increase, all the teachers would stay on their current step in the budget. But the assistants have their increase because they had a contract passed for this year. And for non-union staff members, there's a 3% wage pool included in there. So those would all be under salaries, which was a 1.22% increase. Our benefits, for example, health insurance, much lower increase, but still an increase from the prior year. I think it was a little over 9%. And then other highlights, you can see where the majority of them are a reduction in the overall budget compared to the prior year. If you look at furniture and equipment, 169%, really high. If you're looking at how it's allocated, however, it's because our one-to-one computer program that we're doing for example, the Chromebooks that all of our students have, every student has a Chromebook, those were all paid for during COVID and beyond until this current year through ESSER funds. And so the ESSER federal funds have gone away. That needed to be included in our budget in order to maintain a one-to-one laptop program for our students. And that's not unlike every other district. All the districts have one-to-one initiatives. So we're just in line with other districts, but having it to move it back into our general fund this year since we don't have ESSER funds. So you can see with the allocation of all of the budget, it's a 0.9% increase over the prior year. These are just some of the areas where it impacts our budget. Health insurance, like I mentioned, it's a 7.3 to a 9.2% increase. It's all based on which plan and what the increase is. And in the budget, it's a $204,000 increase. Dental was a 5% increase, which equates to about $32,000. New Hampshire retirement, the current rate stays for 2 years. That's 21.2%. 0.2%, and for employees, it's 14.06. Special education, it's really just some data for you, so you can see how many students we have. Ages 3 to 22, we have 1,032 students who are identified and receiving services, and 22% of our population requires individual or specialized instruction. We also have 519 students that are on 504 plans. And also noting for special education, the budget for Pinkerton reduced $860,000 based on their rates and our number of students. For Pinkerton tuition, it's a 5.63% on their rate. So as a reminder, every student that we send to Pinkerton, we are charged $17,226. If a student requires individual specialized plan, their special education, or they have a one-to-one assistant, or they require a one-to-one nurse, or occupational therapy, or physical therapy, those are all in addition to the $17,226, which is the base rate for every student. And we're projecting 118 less students for Pinkerton. So the total overall decrease for regular education Pinkerton would be $524,000. Next charter school tuition increased a 3% rate. Transportation increased $335,000. Remember, we are still in a contract, so this is just part of a multi-year contract, which is a 7.51% increase. The only other long-term debt besides the bond that we're requesting is the Honeywell Energy Efficiency Program, which, as you know, the cost for the program every year covers the savings that we would incur. So every year they've given us a presentation, and every year they've met the benchmark. And so that's an increase of $16,808. And like David mentioned, the adequacy aid, there is a reduction of $945,000, and that was the disparity aid, and every year that's going to decrease approximately the same amount. These are just questions about the default budget. Some years we're going to come in higher, some years we come in lower. Things that we're basically working with two budgets. So when we're preparing a budget for the new year, we do a base budget, which is our default budget, which is your prior year's budget plus anything you are contractually obligated to, plus or minus. So we're contractually obligated to pay Pinkerton for our students, and if the rate goes down, then it also goes down in your default budget, and it goes down in your proposed budget. Also, anything related to special education, that would be in your default budget. And transportation, special education. Things that are not in your default budget, but are in your proposed budget, are things like increases on your utilities, increases for non-union staff members, increases for non-union staff members, health insurance increases, large bus transportation increases. All of those items and more cannot be in your default budget. So it's a lot of money that's over your default. And this board and the Fiscal Advisory Committee we worked to get to our default this year off by about $1. So we had to make a lot of cuts in the budget to get there, but just wanted to give you an idea of how the default works with your proposed budget.
All right, so the school board supports this budget, and as Jane mentioned, or I mentioned earlier as well, that there's a lot of people who wanted to see our tax rate curbed and not increase it. The rate has been increasing over the past several years. So I think the committee, the board, and the Fiscal Advisory Committee took that to heart, and a majority of the board and Fiscal Advisory Committee wanted to get the budget below default, and as Jane mentioned, we did that. Right around $750,000 worth of cuts, if I remember appropriately. So with that being said, with this budget, class size goals stay the same. We're not increasing class sizes. We efficiently utilize resources, maintain all current teacher positions, support one-to-one technology, provide specialized programs based on student needs, and as Jane mentioned, the increase from last year's 1%, less than 1%. So, as I think the slide that we saw earlier showing the tax rates year over year from the previous 3 years, you'll see it drop off a cliff, even including the teacher's contract, it's 28 cents from over $1 the last 3 years. So that was really important, and hopefully people will take that into account when they vote in March. So with that, next slide.
So warrant Article 4 is the teacher contract with an estimated tax impact in year 1 of 26 cents. Shall the school district approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Derry School Board and the Derry Education Association that calls for the following changes in salaries and benefits at current staffing levels over those paid in the prior fiscal year? For next year, 25-26, the estimated increase is $1,465,971. 26-27 would be $1,608,351. And in 27-28, the increase would be $1,680,783. And further raise and appropriate the sum of $1,465,971 for the upcoming fiscal year, 25-26, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the changes in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current staffing levels. That's what the warrant will look like, the article. Just so everyone understands, warrant Article 5 that you'll see when you go vote is, shall the school district, if Article 4 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 4 cost items only. So these two articles go together.
All right, I'm going to take this one. I'm going to speak as to why the school board supports the teacher contract. The board negotiating committee, that's myself, Jason, and Jonathan. We sat down with the DEA representatives starting this past summer, and after going to mediation in November, a lot of give and take, we reached an agreement that worked for both sides. It was ratified by the DEA membership and approved by the school board. This contract is going to give teachers on step 1 to 14 a 3.5% raise for each year of the contract, in addition to their step increases. And teachers at the top step 15 who no longer receive step increases will get a 4% increase each year. The district is also increasing its contribution to the least expensive healthcare plan from 90% to 95%. There was an attendance incentive eliminated, with those funds being reallocated into the salary increases. And there were also increases to extracurricular and athletic stipends. From the board's perspective, we believe this will help with retention of the excellent teachers we already have here in Derry, and also make Derry a more attractive district to new teachers. This is the same slide from the first presentation, so we don't need to get into too much detail, but yeah, we have the two public forums that are going to cover the capital improvement bond on Tuesday, January 21st, February 18th at 6:30 p.m. at West Running Brook. And then we encourage everybody to attend the deliberative session Saturday, February 1st, also at West Running Brook in the gymnasium, 10 a.m., and then to come out and vote Tuesday, March 11th at the Pinkerton Academy Hackler Gymnasium, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
All right, at this time, we would invite anyone who wants to come up and ask questions.
Evening. Meg Morse-Barry, President of the Derry Education Association.
Dave Levesque, First Vice President and Negotiations Chair of the Derry Education Association.
Regarding the teachers' contract, we started really early this year so that we could finish with enough time for the budget to have the numbers. On the committee, we had 7 members of the, in addition to Dave and I, there was 7 members of the teaching staff that joined the committee. Negotiations is tough. It's a tough business. Jason's shaking his head at me. It's hard. It's draining. Nobody wins. Everybody has to accept that they're going to lose something. But at the end, when you can come up with a deal that's appropriate, that benefits both the district and the association, then it's a good day. And I think all of us worked very hard, and we appreciate the effort that the members of our committee put into it, long nights, lots of Zoom calls, and the effort that the school board and several members of the administration, Joe, Laura, Melissa, and Kathy Kennedy, were all part of the negotiations team as well. So we think we did a good job, and we think we can all pat ourselves on the back, and we hope that the voters will go out and approve it, because I think it's a good start to getting teachers in Derry what they deserve for all the work that they do. So we appreciate you, all the work that was done during negotiations, and thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd say to you guys on behalf of the negotiating team, I mean, we have so much respect for what all of you guys do in your work as teachers. And even though we went to mediation, I felt like it was a very cordial negotiation, and we got a good deal that works for all sides, and I think the voters can support this.
Thank you.
All right, last call? No? All right. I will take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
First by Michael,
Second?
second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes 7-0. So I made a mistake earlier. We have agenda items to vote on both the warrants, so we'll do that later on in the meeting. All right, so we have, Tina, you're up.
We have,
No, excuse me,
yeah.
delegation individuals, sorry. I'll open up to anyone who wants to speak 3 minutes on any topic related to the schools. And just name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the school board. I'm Michael Leon. I live at 84 Sinead Road here in Derry. I've been a resident of Derry, since 2006. I don't think anyone's in this room who hasn't turned on the news and seen the wildfires in California. I hope people have asked, what are these wildfires? What's going on with these? Well, let me tell you, they're not the result of any one single action of policy put in California by progressives. They were not caused by budget cuts to the fire department in Los Angeles, nor the diversion of funds intended for fire suppression to woke causes, nor was it the insanity of draining reservoirs during a known high risk for wildfires, nor the complete mismanagement of lands, both public and private, for decades, nor was it the lack of a redundant fire hydrant system, nor was it the prohibition of sustainable forestry practices. It was a result of the conflagration of all these factors and many more, all directly related to the incompetence manifested as a result of progressive policies. What you may not know, just to the south in San Diego, the same Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, which was once famous for being Naval Air Station Miramar, associated with Top Gun, just had a fire 2 days ago. That fire only burned 12 acres, and there's a reason it only burned 12 acres. The winds were strong. Santa Ana winds are dry, they're forceful, a fire started there. The base, under leadership of both United States Navy and United States Marine Corps leadership, has practiced science-based rational thought. The native vegetation there is well managed, both manually and by prescribed burns. The outcome was predictable before the natural disaster occurred. So what do California fires have to do with the school board?
Or germane to the conversation? Is this getting to a point?
Yeah, I'm
of
actually getting to
something
that.
To do with the schools?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's my next sentence here. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have been spot on tonight. So what do the California fires have to do with the school board? The district's burning away money on things having absolutely nothing to do with education for the most precious resource we have in Derry, our students. The school board has closed schools and not shown cost savings to taxpayers. How can you be so incompetent? The student body has decreased significantly for years. The town has received more than its fair share over other towns for close to a decade, and the only thing progressives on this board do is blame other people, namely every state rep, for the incompetence of the majority of this board. Thanks for the insanity of this school board joining a lawsuit intended to impose an income tax on the residents of Derry. We heard about a fantasy plan last year that was resolutely defeated by the good people of Derry. So too was a warrant article to inform the school board of the town's wishes. After these, call me absolutely not shocked when I heard about how expensive furniture and equipment was. Thank you, Jane, for bringing that up. Mr. Chairman, I have a question for you. Will you hold a public session to discuss the school board's decision to literally throw out district-owned assets with intrinsic value, these very same furniture and equipment we just heard are so expensive? Will you share at that meeting how many thousands or tens of thousands of dollars were wasted as a result of this school board's incompetence in 2024? After this, I'll be submitting a 91A and look forward to continue this conversation at the next meeting. Thank you for your time.
Hello, Erica Leon again, 84 Shanita Road. I am coming up because of the mention about the $900,000 less in state aid. I do want to bring to everyone's attention the trends in state aid. First, let's look at students. Back into the 2006 fiscal year, we had 6,783 students in Derry. In the 16 fiscal year, we had 5,182 students in the Derry School District. In fiscal year 26, we have 4,356 students in the Derry School District. Our enrollment's been declining. It looked like it was pretty straight line over the last decade or so. Over this time, the adequate education, which is the per student funding, the one that this board joined on a lawsuit in order to increase that amount, has remained relatively steady, even though the number of students we have has decreased by 25% approximately. Looking back just over the last 10 years, we had, up until about fiscal year 2020, we were getting between $1.2 and $2.1 million on top of that adequacy aid. Around the time that I came in and I was on the education committee, we actually bumped that up to an extra $5.7 million in increased aid to Derry on top of the per student amounts. In 2022, that was $8.9 million in extra money. 23, $4.4 million. 24, $8.4 million on top of our per student adequacy grant. And in 25, $7.9 million. Now we're down to $7.1 million on top of our share based on our per pupil adequacy. We've gotten a really good ride for a long time, but as we're trying to understand what to do about school funding across the state, this needs to be about the students, and it needs to be about going to the students all across the state. We can't ask for special favors and ask to get an extra $8 million from the state over on top of what the spending formulas have. You know, it's going to take some hard decisions, and that's something that we're going to have to work on. But the fact that we're only getting $7.1 million extra instead of $7.9 million extra probably isn't something we want to talk about too much, because there's a lot of towns that'll get jealous. So thank you. Oh, actually, and I do have one way to save costs for the town. It was mentioned that Pinkerton costs $17,000 per student. I do want to say that for every high school student in Derry that takes an EFA, an Education Freedom Account, that will have a direct $17,000 a year reduction on our spending. That's one for one. That's actually a straight line benefit there. So I know that there's been a lot of difficulty adjusting down our existing costs here per student. Those are some hard choices to figure out who to cut when you have 25% fewer students. But we do know that every student who takes an EFA in high school saves the town $17,000 directly. Thank you.
All right, that will do it for delegation individuals. So Tina, you're up. Voting day, discussion, deliberative session.
All right. My name is Tina Guilford. I am the school district clerk and the town clerk. So I'm going to start with your qualifications for whoever wants to run for office. Also, for whoever wants to speak and vote at the deliberative session, you must be a registered voter in Derry. So the deadline to register to vote for office or for the deliberative session is January 21st. That's the last day to register. The supervisors of the checklist will have a session here in this building from 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. downstairs at the first floor. But you can also register every day, Monday through Friday, from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the town clerk's office. Once that 7:30 p.m. deadline comes, the checklist is closed, and it stays closed until after the deliberative session. So if you want to speak, you want to vote at the deliberative session, make sure you're a voter. You can check your voter information on the Secretary of State's website, or you can call the town clerk's office at 603-432-6105, or you can email townclerk@derrynh.org. We're happy to help you. With that said, the filing period starts January 22nd. We are open 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday through Friday. It runs until January 31st. January 31st, we will be open till 5 p.m. That's what the state requires. You're going to register, you're going to sign up, you're going to fill out a form. Yes, you can go to the SAU to get the form. You can download it on the SAU website, or you can just come into town hall because I have them downstairs. You can file for the town, you can file for the school. Our school district has 5 seats, 3 for 3 years, 2 for 2 years, and you do have to pick one. Doesn't matter to me which one you pick, but you have to pick one. We also have town council seats. There are 3 different town council seats. Those, some of them are controlled by districts, so it depends where you live. There are some library trustee seats. There's a trustee of the trust fund seat. My seat's available if somebody wants to run for town clerk. So, if you have any questions, call, email, come in. I'm here and happy to assist. February 1st is the deliberative session. It starts at 10 a.m. Hopefully it starts at 10 a.m. sharp. So you want to be there by like 9:30 so that you can get checked in and you can get your voting card and you can get in your seat. I'd love to see more than 150 people show up. We do have 21,678 voters in this town. So I would love to see more than 150 people come. It is at 10 a.m. at West Running Brook in the gymnasium. And all of that to say that on Election Day, March 11th, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Pinkerton Academy, the Hackler Gymnasium. In November, we had 18,145 people show up to vote. I'm really hoping we get more than like 3,000 voters for the school district election. You do have a bond article. You do need the 3/5. So come out and vote. And is there any questions? Look forward to seeing everyone.
Thanks, Tina.
All right, next is the votes. So Michael, you know, motion.
All right, for the approval of the warrant, I move to finalize the proposed, for the vote to finalize the district budget. I move to finalize the proposed 2025-2026 district budget as presented in the amount of $102,184,053.
Second.
All right, first by Michael, second by Jason. We'll do a roll call vote. We got Jason?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Jenna? Yes. Jonathan?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Brenda? Yes. And the chair votes yes. Motion passes 7-0. All right, next up we have the approval of the warrants.
All right, I will move to approve the warrant as presented, including the board recommendations on Articles 2, 3, 4, and 5.
All right, we have first by Michael, second by Jason. Another roll call vote. We have Jason?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Jenna? Yes. Jonathan?
Yep.
Michael?
Yes.
Brenda? Yes. And the chair votes yes. Motion passes 7-0. All right, well, thank you. Thank you for everyone who showed up tonight to discuss these and give their valuable input. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda, we have Pinkerton Academy update. Mr. Henry.
Okay, I feel like I haven't been here in a while. It's been like a month.
Sure has.
So midterms are next week from January 21st to the 24th. You get 2 midterms a day. The first one runs from 7:15 to 8:45. The second one runs from 9 to 10:30. Then you're done for the day. And that's Tuesday through Friday. We have no school January 20th because of Martin Luther King Day, and no school January 27th, so teachers get a day to prepare, because the following day is semester 2, and that is also the day our new building opens for classes. The building is complete. Teachers have begun moving their things in there, and learning starts first day of second semester. Winter sports are in full swing, things like basketball, hockey, etc., and swimming, things like that. And course night with a mini club fair will be open for 8th graders from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at the Academy building, for anyone interested.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Board? No? All right, looks like Ms. Kyle's not here tonight, so we'll go to Austin for personnel.
Okay, I have one resignation. Catherine Diaz, speech and language pathologist working at the district level.
Move to accept with regret.
First by Jason,
Second.
second by Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes 7-0.
And I have two nominations. Evelina Carboni, special education teacher, Grinnell Elementary School. Kerry Lynn LaFlame, special education teacher, Gilbert H. Hood Middle School.
Move to accept the nominations.
First by Jason,
Second.
second by Michael. All in favor? Aye. All right, motion passes 7-0. Is that it? All right. We have your update, Austin.
Okay, and at the beginning of my update, I'm going to defer to Assistant Superintendent Joe Crawford.
Thanks. So I just want to take a moment and let you know about we have so many wonderful, really talented people that work in our school district. I've been fortunate to, I'm on my 25th year here in Derry, and just this past Sunday, we lost someone who was a retiree, someone who worked in our district for 21 years. Her name was Leanne Norton. She had been retired. She retired back in 2002, but Leanne was actually a paraprofessional in my classroom when I was a brand new teacher, and I remember how important it was for me to have somebody as skilled and experienced as Leanne. So when I found out of her passing, I just wanted to say a little something today, and maybe we could have just a moment of silence to remember Leanne Norton and her service to Derry. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I agree with you, Anthony. Seems like it's been a long time since we were here, and even a long time since the holiday break. But I hope everyone had a wonderful 12-day-long holiday break this December, and that you had a very happy New Year. Hopefully there were days for you to spend some quality time with friends and family, and you were able to catch up on some very well-needed rest and relaxation, so you are energized and ready for this second half of the 2024-2025 school year. I spent the week prior to the holiday break visiting our schools dressed as the conductor from the movie Polar Express. Thursday of that week, I read the story to first graders over at Ernest P. Barker Elementary School, complete with hot cocoa and the giving of a Christmas bell. I am proud and humbled to have inherited this from our former superintendent, Dr. John Moody, thanks to his wife, Judy Moody, who gifted me with the conductor's hat and all the props. Students had a wonderful experience, and teachers were glad there was only one day left of the wonderful excitement prior to the break. Although we have escaped at least one storm, and the most recent storm came over the weekend, I'm sorry for those of you who like those school days, but I love when a storm hits over the weekend. So, but I want to remind everybody about the process involved with calling an early release, a delayed opening, a remote learning day, traditional snow day, etc. Prior to a storm, New Hampshire has a call for superintendents and other people throughout the districts with the latest weather updates. Then the superintendents in South Central New Hampshire begin texting their thoughts for the next day. After all, there is always strength in numbers. I am also part of a Pinkerton Academy Sending Towns group, which has an additional text chain that takes place simultaneously. Whenever it is possible, I try to make the decision in the evening before. In that way, I'm able to give everyone more time to prepare for tomorrow. It is absolutely for that reason, first and foremost. It's also because then I don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. for my phone call from the National Weather Service in Gray, Maine. I also speak to my Director of Facilities, Jeremy Lamoth, to get an update on the current road conditions. Transportation Coordinator, Dr. Dancy, who I believe is still back there, talks with first student, and then we talk. After I make the decision, he sends out information to families and staff. A traditional snow day is a day off for both students and staff, and the reason not to call a remote learning day is usually due to hearing reports of potential power outages. As always, the decision is made with the safety of our students and staff as our first priority. Finally, kindergarten registration begins Monday, January 27th at 8 o'clock a.m. Last year, I spent numerous superintendent reports reminding families that this is on a first-come, first-served basis for seats in their child's neighborhood school. If you have a child of kindergarten age, we will definitely have a seat for them, but it is not guaranteed that it will be at the school where they will spend the following 4 years. So, if you want to make sure your child attends their neighborhood school for kindergarten, please register them as soon as the process opens, which, as I mentioned before, begins at 8 o'clock a.m. Monday, January 27th. If you have any questions, please call the main office at your child's neighborhood school. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Any questions for Austin? No? Okay. All right. Next up is FYIs. In our packet, we have the January enrollment report. Austin just mentioned the kindergarten registration, January 27th, starts at 8 a.m. And thirdly, we have Pinkerton has invited people to go to their open house to the social studies building Wednesday, February 5th, from 6 to 8. For anybody interested in going to that open house. And I know the school board has a Sunday town meeting, which will be touring the building during that time as well. But that's for the public at large for the February 5th meeting. Yeah.
One interesting thing I noticed on the enrollment report is, obviously, I think you pointed this out at the last time we got one, but we're actually down enrollment from where we were at the end of last year, where we're down 72 students from the June 2024 to the current report, and which is interesting because we had projections done last year that said we would see an increase of 23 students. So the second thing that I found interesting is the projections had us having 34 more first graders this year than we had kindergartners, because that's historically been a trend, kind of dating back to when you had to pay tuition to go to kindergarten. In reality, we only have 3 more first graders than we had kindergartners last year. So I feel like that trend, now that, full day kindergarten doesn't have a cost to it, that's dried up of, us suddenly gaining a bunch of first graders when we get to that point.
All right. Committees. Anyone want to start off?
I will.
Yeah, get the manifest first. Yeah.
I will move to approve the manifest for a grand total of $5,469,442.26. That consists of general payroll of $3,987,995.76 and general expenses of $1,481,488.54.
Second.
All right, we got a first by Jonathan, second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes 7-0. Any other committee updates? And of course, I skipped the superintendent update, so I might as well give it during the committee updates.
No, he gave the superintendent.
Oh, I'm thinking the superintendent search update.
I was just gonna.
Yeah.
That's what I was. That's what I was gonna.
Got it.
I was just gonna say, superintendent search committee is doing our training. So all of the people, we appreciate everyone that applied. It was a randomized lottery that we did with G&D, and so we have the group that is picked out along with the alternates. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Austin. That will be training on Friday from 9 to 12, and then the interviews will be taking place at the end of this month. So we appreciate the candidates that have applied, and we're looking forward to going through the process with the group of teachers, administrators, SAU staff, again, an amalgamation of a lot of different people within the district. So thank you for applying. Those that did, we look forward to meeting you and learning about who you are and what you can bring to the district.
So we do have a facilities meeting on Friday, I believe. So obviously we have the dates that we talked about for the public forums, community events. It's 21st and February 18th. January 21st and February 18th are on the agenda. We met with every PTA over the last couple weeks. We all took a different meeting throughout that process. So we started the process of getting out there and talking to the public, and I think on Friday we're gonna kind of galvanize all the other ideas we talked about and try to figure out what's gonna work, what's not gonna work outside of the traditional methods that we go down to educate the public on this. So more to come from that Friday meeting, but I mean, we got the big dates on the books, which is good, and we'll get more in detail on ancillary options that we can all chip in and work through to get the message out.
I would say too, in terms of getting the message out, we have one more meeting before the deliberative session. It's the Tuesday before, and if you're listening to me right now, you're probably going to go to the deliberative session. But tell everybody that you know in town, how important it is to come out to these things, the deliberative session, to vote on voting day. I mean, that's really the best way to get the message out to people.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
When we, sorry, I barely have a voice. When we get this enrollment report, could we also have the year priors, homeschool students and outplay students? I just think it would be interesting to balance those against the numbers that, 53 students down at Pinkerton and 80 down in our schools. Just be interested to see if there's a correlation. Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else on committees, any other business we have? Do you want to talk about? No? Okay. At this time, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
First by Jonathan, second by Michael. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Have a great night, guys. Thank you for everyone who showed up and watched on TV. Take care.